You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat Veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, how y'all doing out there today? You know I miss you when we're not talking. Now, whoa, stop it. You've got to buy that one by now. Come on, how long have I been saying this? Would you guys believe? And I didn't believe this till I looked. We've been talking for over 200 episodes or somewhere in that neighborhood. My jaw's on the ground. So I wanted to take a minute and do something I probably don't remember to do often enough. Thank you to all of my wonderful, loyal listeners. Oh yes, I do remember. Thank you. All right. I say this every time, or I say it quite often. There's a lot going on in the world out there. Oh yeah. Now, I know what you're listening for. You want to hear the show prep. We'll get to it in just... All right, we'll get to it right now. Yeah, that's a lot of show prep. Trust me, if it sounds thicker than usual, it is. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What can I say? Photos and nukes. Could Iran be in the middle of it all? Well, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Iran is in the middle of all of it. And you're going, in the middle of all of what? Well, I'm about to play Connect Those Dots with you. Because trust me, they're up to their eyeballs in it. Well, what's it? Well, of course, chaos on the world stage. Yes. Chaos on the world stage. So, what can I say? There is, as always, a lot going on in this them there world. I mean, all right, we had the North Korean nuclear launch North Korean missile launch that they claim could carry a nuclear weapon. There's all kinds of things going on. I mean, we've got the new South Korean president going, oh, let's just play nice and talk. We've got the Ebola outbreak in the Congo. And you had to have heard of the Ebola outbreak in Congo. What? You haven't heard about the Ebola outbreak in the Congo? Boy, oh boy. And you thought we were done with Ebola. Well, guess what, kids? We're not. Hey, want to give a shout out to Road Beer, Robin, and Federalist Mama. Thank y'all for tuning in and being part of my loyal listeners. Yes, they just notified me on Twitter that they are listening. How can you do the same thing and maybe get a shout out too? Well, I'm going to tell you before I get started on the Ebola outbreak. Oh yes, I wouldn't forget you. All right. Here's what you do. You follow me on Twitter at Jesse's POV. Or you can even shoot me an email if you don't have Twitter. I understand. If you don't have Twitter, I get it. So, sorry, I'm just typing out a quick tweet. All right. All right, moving right along. Sorry about that, kids. I can't seem to type and talk at the same time. I'll have to work on that. Because, well, when I started typing, I stopped running the mouth. All right. So, we've got the Ebola outbreak in the Congo. We've got violence in the Kashmir. We've got the North Korean missile launch. North Korea's ties to Iran. Iran's permanently open museum to anti-Americanism, which happens to be our former embassy in Tehran. Oh, what's that, Host Kitty? What's that? Oh, he doesn't like the fact that they're using our former embassy as a museum to anti-Americanism. Well, no offense, Host Kitty, I don't like it either, and what do you expect him to do? Then, we've got Syria, Philippines, and I even have a bit of Somalia thrown in for good measure. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I do. All right, so, just as a reminder, you can tune in every night at 9 p.m. right here on KLRNRadio.com and hear my show. So if you tuned in tonight, do join me tomorrow night, because I do love my loyal listeners. And if 9 o'clock isn't good for you, never fear. You can find Jesse's POV on iTunes, on Spreaker, on iTunes. You can find it on Google Play. You can find it so many places. It's insane. Go to podcast.com. Go to Pocket Casts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all of the above. Oh yes, it's there. Alright, and I'm there. I'm in the chat room over on KLRNRadio.com, so if you want to interact with me live, you can either shoot me a tweet or head on over to KLRNRadio/chat. Yes, we have our very own chat room. And I will be looking for your comments in both locations, folks. I do keep an eye on. I don't watch my Twitter feed, so you're gonna have to tag me, or I'm not gonna see it while I'm on the air. Might catch it later. Alright, so now that you know how to interact with me, let's get back to this Stack O show prep. Yes. Where to start? Let's start with stuff that is not Iran, because I will get to the Iranian connections amongst everything, however, because they are smack dab in the middle of all of this. And I will make that point clear in just a few moments. So, at least how I see it. And you know that's what I do. I play a game of Connect the Dots. Now, before we start our game of Connect the Dots, let's go over our scorecard. You don't have your scorecard handy? Well, pull out a piece of paper, or jot it down, or follow the bouncing ball. All right, folks, you've got Bashar al-Assad over in Syria, who is propped up by Russia and Iran. Who is Iran's missile technology trading partner? That is North Korea, who is propped up by China. Who is friends with Russia? Oh, yes, and Russia is trying to tell the U.S. to stop pressuring North Korea. So we clearly know what side of this battle line Russia's falling on. Russia's siding with Iran's trading partner, North Korea. Makes sense to me, kids. All right. So we're going to start in Syria, and we are going to work our way around. Now, I got some unrelated Syria stuff. First, we're going to talk Raqqa real quick. Fighters from the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces are reportedly closing in on Daesh. Daesh's capital, Raqqa. Go Syrian Democratic Forces. They have seized the full control of Tabqa Dam, which is 50 kilometers from Raqqa, from Daesh on Wednesday, and the city was subsequently cut off from water and food as the SDF moved in. You go, SDF. All right, now, we've got we haven't gotten to the big Syria story. Well, actually we are. We're getting there right now. Hundreds of rebel fighters evacuate homes in Syria. All right. For years they waged war against the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, but Monday night opposition fighters and their families lined up to leave, defeated. Nearly 400 fighters, some with weapons still in hand, had boarded buses by sunset. Assad's soldiers monitored their departure under the watchful eye of their Russian allies. All part of a deal to relocate the opposition to northern Syria. The rebel fighters weren't interested in talking with media. But in a video they provided to the press, one man explained, "It feels like a stab in the heart leaving Homs, but God willing, I'll make it back one day triumphant." Homs Governor Talal al-Brazari said the negotiations to get this far were difficult. It's a truce for the time being, but he warned the government would fight again in the future if it had to. Assad's forces have used several different tactics to take back territory from opposition fighters. One has been to destroy entire neighborhoods. Yes, they've been hearing a lot of this in Homs. And that ain't a cool sound. I'd rather they heard some of this in the evenings. All right, moving right along. The State Department has said it has evidence that Syria's Assad regime has carried out mass executions outside Damascus. And it has released the images. According to U.S. intelligence, it shows a crematorium used to dispose of bodies. Yes, a crematorium. Now, why do I say that? Well, Stuart Jones, Acting Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, told reporters that about 50 detainees are being hanged each day at the Sadania military prison about 20 miles from Damascus. And newly declassified satellite photos appear to show a building modified to house a crematorium. And of course, cremating the bodies represents an effort to cover up the extent. Now, let's take a listen to a couple of the clips I have for you from Stuart Jones himself.
Thank you for being here this morning. Since Syria's civil conflict began in 2011, the Assad regime has treated opposition forces and unarmed civilians as one and the same, committing widespread violations of international law, including the law of armed conflict and human rights law. Today, we are releasing newly declassified reporting and photos that underscore the depths to which the Syrian regime has gone, with the continuing support of its allies, Russia and Iran. The facts we're presenting today are based on reporting from international and local non-governmental organizations, press reporting, and also intelligence community assessments.
All right, so he's saying that the facts they're presenting are a compilation from a number of sources. All right, I'm with him so far. You with me? All right, that makes sense. You don't ever get one source for information.
The continued brutality of the Assad regime, including his use of chemical weapons, presents a clear threat to regional stability and security, as well as to the national security interests of the United States and our allies.
All right. There are actually Americans that are missing and or detained in Syria, but he did not speak on that matter. All right, here's my last clip from him on Syria, and then we'll continue talking.
Since 2012, the regime has routinely conducted airstrikes and artillery strikes in dense urban centers, including with barrel bombs, improvised unguided bombs, which are sometimes described as airdropped IEDs. The Assad regime systematically targeted eastern Aleppo's hospitals in multiple strikes, killing patients and medical professionals. In addition to airstrikes, the regime continues to systematically abduct and torture civilian detainees, often beating, electrocuting, and raping these victims. A former regime photo documentarian working under the name Caesar has shared more than 10,000 photos of Assad's victims with the international community. According to numerous NGOs, the regime has abducted and detained between 65,000 and 117,000 people between 2011 and 2015.
That's a lot of people, folks, and if you're wondering what an NGO is, it's short for non-governmental organization. Think Red Crescent, Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, Samaritan's Purse. In essence, the people that try and make the world a better place, or AKA the do-gooders. Yes, I do like our do-gooders. That is not a put-down, folks. That's just my nickname to quantify them all. All right. So, once or twice a week, the Syrian government would quietly slaughter up to 50 prisoners at a time in mass hangings. It said the bodies were originally buried in mass graves in secret locations outside the capital. Nicolette Waldman, who wrote a 48-page report after a year-long investigation, said the number of people killed may be much higher. More than 400,000 people have been killed and millions displaced in the Syrian war, according to United Nations estimates. So, now, of course, the last testimony for Waldman's report was in December 2015, but there is no reason to think the executions have stopped at the prison, and I'm inclined to believe her. Now, back to our scorecard for just a second. Who is Syria propped up by? Russia and Iran. All right. So, let's move on to Iran. Oh, yes. Now, you know, I don't cover much in the way of U.S. politics, but boy, will I jump all over an Iranian political story, and you know that one. So, let's move on to Iran. Just finding the right place to start for you, kids. All right. Tehran's conservative mayor dropped out of Iran's presidential election to back a hardliner, believed to be close to the country's supreme leader, consolidating the opposition, aiming to unseat moderate President Hassan Rouhani. Mohammad Bagher Khalif's decision narrows Rouhani's path to victory in an election Friday that's largely seen as a referendum on the nuclear deal with world powers, which may turn on concerns about the sputtering economy. Hardliner Ibrahim Raisi will gain votes from Kalibaf's endorsement, but it may not be enough to defeat Rouhani. Every Iranian president since 1981 has won a second term. That's a pretty long track record there, kids. We can't say the same in this country. What is important and vital is to maintain the interests of the people, the country, and the Islamic Revolution, Kalibaf said in a statement according to the Iranian News Agency, or IRNA. This great ideal can only be achieved through changing the status quo. Raisi thanked Kalibaf for his support, calling it a revolutionary act. According to the semi-official Tasnim news agency, some have speculated that Kalibaf could serve as vice president in Raisi's administration in exchange for his support. There was, however, no immediate reaction from Rouhani. Kalibaf's decision brings the number of candidates competing in Friday's election to 5. It's likely others will drop out to solidify support for other candidates, especially as one of them is serving as vice president in Rouhani's government. All right, so what does that have to do with anything? I'm getting there, kids. I'm getting there. I told you I got to give you some information before I play Connect the Dots. And yes, I know I'm coming up on the bottom of the hour. I'm just hoping I can get through all this. All right, voters in Iran will be heading to the polls on Friday to elect a new president in a crucial election seen by many as a potential battleground between the reformists and the fundamentalists. The result of the May 19th, yes, fast approaching election will undoubtedly shape Iran's domestic policies for the coming years. But will it also affect the country's foreign policy? Generally speaking, a president election in Iran is more likely to shape the domestic agenda than the foreign one because the fundamentalist versus reformist divide that shapes Iran's elections is more relevant to internal politics. When it comes to foreign policy, the Iranian president only serves as the second in command to Khamenei, who's the actual head of state and commander-in-chief. Now, of course, we know that Khamenei and the popular things said in Iran about foreign policy are death to Israel, death to America. Iran's national security and by extension its foreign policy lie within the authority of the Supreme Leader. The Supreme National Security Council was formed under a revision that was spearheaded by Khamenei in 1989, the very same year he became the country's supreme leader. Can we say power grab, kids? Can we say power grab? Once the decision is approved, the president has considerable influence over its implementation, but mostly in the diplomatic sphere. However, when it comes to national security and regional affairs, other powerful establishment figures, such as the head of the Republican Guards, also have considerable influence over the execution of the foreign policy. That's not to say the election of an ideologue like Raisi would have certain unintended consequences. And yes, I'm going to go a few minutes past the bottom of the hour so I can finish this so we can pick up where I left off. The elections in and by themselves are important because they express the mood of the nation. The supreme leader doesn't have as much influence over the results as he has over the ruling establishment. A new president usually comes with a popular mandate and does have influence, but he doesn't have the kind of executive authority that a Turkish, Russian, or U.S. president has. Okay, Iran's economic stagnation under Ahmadinejad was the main thing that propelled Rouhani to the presidency with a mandate to break out of Iran's diplomatic isolation and improve its economy. Khamenei was well aware of those challenges as well as the opportunities that lie ahead and decided after a direct appeal by the U.S. president to grant Rouhani's government the latitude necessary to reach a deal with the United States and improve economic relations with the West. Khamenei himself has approved the deal, even if it arguably violated some of his red lines, and although he remains a vocal critic of the West, Khomeini later asked its critics to cease their attacks on the nuclear deal. It's clear during the final presidential debate last week how the two leading opposition candidates, Rassi and Mohammad Ghalibaf, who recently dropped out of the race, were more eager to criticize Rouhani for the lack of economic dividends from the nuclear deal than for its signing. All right, I thought that was pretty interesting, how different politics are in Iran than they are in Russia. And I want you to hang in there with me while we pay those bills, and I will see you on the other side.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine combat veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with me while we paid them bills. All right, we're getting back to Iran, and how does that have anything to do with North Korea? Well, here's where I'm playing connect the dots, okay? And what does it have to do with Syria? Even more. All right, well, unless you live under a rock, and I don't think any of my listeners live under rocks, quackers, yes, good old quackers, decided to launch a missile this past weekend. Oh yes, North Korea's embassy in Beijing issued a fresh warning to the new South Korean administration of Moon Jae-in, warning Seoul against strengthening the security alliance with foreign powers like Japan and the United States. Quote, anyone who follows the lead of foreign powers and distances himself from a unitary people in the pursuit of selfish interests and desires cannot avoid the harsh judgment of the people. And that was a representative of the diplomatic mission based in China speaking to reporters in Beijing. All right, that statement came the day after North Korea tested a ballistic missile that it claims could be mounted with, ready for it, folks? A nuclear warhead! Yes. That is what North Korea has in mind. South Korean officials said that Pyongyang's public announcement of the missile test was not appropriate. That is because we have many relations to pursue with the North and to engage in dialogue. On Monday, North Korea's diplomatic representative in Beijing did not address any misgivings Seoul had about its recent missile test or how the provocation could pose an obstacle. Now, we're getting there. I promise we're pulling this full circle. Russian President Vladimir Putin is urging foreign leaders to keep a cool head on North Korea, speaking in China. And who is North Korea's big brother? Why, of course, China. Yes. Hey, thank you, Real Fedco. Thanks for the little bit of an endorsement there. I do appreciate it. Sorry, back to what I was doing. I just had a little Twitter notification, and you know I will grab them when I can. All right, so moving right along. China is North Korea's big brother. Putin was speaking in China. Now, he did condemn the missile launch as dangerous, but he also cautioned against intimidating the country. Of course, these comments are most likely directed at Washington, D.C. I would like to confirm that we are categorically against the expansion of the Club of Nuclear States, including through the Korean Peninsula. We are against it and consider it counterproductive, damaging, and dangerous. Of course, this was just days after the ballistic missile test that flew for 450 miles and for 30 minutes. That represents a level of performance never before seen from a North Korean missile. North Korea chose a high angle for the launch to avoid neighboring countries. If shot at a trajectory target, experts say the missile would have traveled about 2,500 miles, far enough to hit the U.S. Air Force base in Guam, which is part of the Pyongyang's government's broader strategy to develop a long-range missile, armed with a nuclear warhead, of course, so it could strike at the United States, which is about 4,800 miles. Although Moscow has expressed concern about Pyongyang's ever-broadening nuclear capabilities, it's one of the few countries with diplomatic ties to North Korea. Oh yes. In 2014, Moscow went so far as to write off 90% of Pyongyang's $11 billion Soviet-era debt. More recently, Russia and North Korea have considered a slew of economic deals, including an expansion of railway links between the two countries. And unless you live under a rock, you know that North Korean workers have been employed in Russia. At slave wages, of course. Now, we're getting there. Former CIA agent says that Iran is aiding North Korea in new missile test emboldens Pyongyang. Now, I have said this before, and this is where I'm getting here, folks. North Korea's launch of an intermediate ballistic missile test on Sunday appears to be a new model and shows an improved capability to reach U.S. military bases in Guam. Also, experts said the new missile is mid-range ballistic and suggests Pyongyang may be getting more proficiency with re-entry technology. Now, what's so important about that? Re-entry technology could be used for longer-range missiles. Such re-entry mastery would also be required for a nuclear warhead to withstand extreme temperatures and other stresses of atmospheric re-entry of an ICBM. It was a significant advance in terms of missiles that seemed to be able to carry a fairly heavy warhead and carry it a fairly significant distance. And that was Fred Fletz, a former CIA analyst, now Senior Vice President for Policy Programs with the Center for Security Policy and a national security think tank, of course, based in D.C. All right. The Iranians have been more successful in building space launch vehicles. They actually further developed some of the designs they received from North Korea. And they further designed other missiles they got from North Korea, and improvements have gone back to North Korea. For example, Tehran's Shahab-3 ballistic missile, capable of reaching Saudi Arabia from Iranian land, is based on technology from North Korea's Nodong-1 rockets. Also, Iran's Ghadir small submarine, which this month conducted a cruise missile test, is a vessel remarkably similar to those used by Pyongyang. I've said it before, I'll say it again, Iran is in the middle of all of this. Now, what does Iran have to do with the crematoriums in Syria? Well, first of all, Iran's known for mass hangings or mass executions. They often use a bullet rather than a rope, but that doesn't mean they won't use a rope as well. And I'm not sure all those bodies ever pop up that Iran executes, because people have gone missing in Iran. Okay. Now, I know we're halfway through the show. I got a little bit more on quackers. Come on. What? Oh, Doc, shut up. And yes, that is about how I view the quackers right now. Alright, quackers also, if you recall my episode from Friday, expects extradition of South Korea's outgoing head of the spy agency. As if, quackers, you are truly crazy. Now, the regime's most successful missile test to date, officials in South Korea say more information was needed to determine whether or not the inflammatory claim about nuclear warheads could be confirmed. Now, I do not expect to see this in any publication. North Korea claims the missile was a new model. Dictator Kim Jong-un personally oversaw the launch and, according to state media, warned that U.S. territories were within reach and that the North was capable of a retaliatory strike. It was described as a KN-17 medium-range missile reaching an altitude of more than 1,300 miles. And it was fired at an intentionally high angle out of consideration for its neighbors. It did travel more than 400 miles horizontally before splashing down into the Sea of Japan, roughly 60 miles from Russia. If launched at a normal trajectory, officials believe it could reach U.S. military bases in Guam. Now, thankfully, President Moon Jae-in called the launch a reckless provocation, while the White House called for stronger sanctions and noted the missile's proximity to Russia, saying President Trump could not imagine that Russia is pleased. Putin, of course, called the test counterproductive and dangerous, but suggested that the U.S. backs off. Now, North Korea has tested dozens of banned missiles in the past year, though this was the first one deemed by U.S. officials as having been a success. And I'm sorry, that is scary. Now, I'm not done. We're going back to Syria. Okay. Why? Satellite photos dating back to 2013 were given to reporters to demonstrate location and evidence showing the crematorium the State Department claims is in Syria. The State Department says Russia and Iran have unconditionally supported the Assad regime. Now, the state says they didn't have a hand in creating the crematorium. However, I'm not willing to buy that one, because I'd be willing to bet that there's a crematorium inside or outside some Iranian prison to get rid of people they just want to vaporize. When Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov visited the U.S. last week for meetings with Trump and Secretary of State Tillerson, they did not discuss the information with him, Jones said, nor have allegations been shared with the Russian government at all. Because the State Department says Russia and Iran, back to this, they claim this topic didn't come up. I don't know. Hard to say, kids. Hard to say. Alright, I'm going to have to play wait and see on this one. However, I'm willing to bet they came up somewhere, some way, somehow. Oh, yes. Alright. Moving right along. Syrian regime. We all know Syria's a disaster. So we're just going to say, Assad, stop it. Yes, stop it. Stop killing your own people, because in this host mind, that puts you on the same level as quackers. And I need to come up with a nice sound effect for you, Assad, because you're showing up on my newscasts all too frequently. Now, I do have one more Iranian story, but we are going to stop playing connect the dots with Iran and North Korea and Syria. And we are going to discuss a couple of other things. Alright, I do have a couple other stories I want to touch on, and yes, I know the top of the hour is fast approaching. The UN humanitarian coordinator in Yemen says a cholera outbreak has killed at least 124 people in 2 weeks. The World Health Organization said last month that fewer than 45% of facilities in Yemen are now fully functioning, and that the flow of essential medicines has fallen by nearly 70%. Some 17 million of Yemen's 26 million people lack sufficient food, and at least 3 million malnourished children are in grave peril. Reuters also points out that a cholera epidemic late last year petered out, but outbreaks are becoming more frequent. Alright. Now, this isn't the only country in the world, in Africa, that we've been doing stuff with. I got a clip here from Secretary of Defense Mattis, who had a meeting on Somalia, which I thought was interesting enough to bring to you. Let's take a listen.
Governmental program to put Somalia back on its feet. It needs a security framework as well. So we were working on how the future looks and what nations could commit what to what and get the framework right. It includes on the security side both a continued maturation of their security forces in the defenses against Al-Shabaab. but it also includes a reconciliation program designed to pull the fence sitters and the middle of the roaders away from al-Shabaab. It's very well put together. There were quite a few nations. I don't remember quite how many nations and organizations.
All right, so now I apologize for the quality of that audio. He conducted a gaggle on the airplane on the way back, and yes, I tried to cut out as much of the airplane noise as possible, but that is almost impossible, so I did my darndest. Now, here's what he had to say about Turkey, and then in particular, arming the Kurds. All right, we're going to start with Statement 2, because I think Statement 1's kind of blah.
I have no doubt that Turkey and the United States will work this out with due considerations, significant attention paid to Turkey's security, to NATO's security, and the continuing campaign against ISIS. And Turkey is committed to that campaign, just like the rest of NATO and the 68 nations that are aligned against ISIS. And that includes, in particular, the campaign against the enemy's caliphate, self-proclaimed caliphate in Raqqa.
All right, so they are trying to work things out with Turkey. Now, I got one more Turkey audio clip, and then we may back up to the first one. I'm trying to make up my mind on that one. All right, let's take a listen to this one.
Yeah, when it comes to terrorist groups, we are unrelenting in our approach to a united front against them. That's the way we're going to stay. We started that way, we've stayed that way. Oftentimes it can be untidy as we deal with the polarities of time, in other words, urgency, and a group that must be thrown onto its back foot if Turkey, if Europe, if all the nations that ISIS has threatened around the world are to be kept on the right trajectory for security, that there's no guarantee.
All right, I thought that was a fascinating clip. Now, just in case you're wondering about how the overview of the meeting went, here's just a quick glimpse, and then we are going to move on to my last story.
I met with the Turkish Prime Minister. I would characterize it as the usual sort of honest, transparent, and helpful discussion between two long-term NATO allies on issues that directly impact the security of NATO alliance, directly impact the security of Turkey, and how we work out the way ahead in regards to the continued offensive against ISIS.
All right, I'm going to cover this last story with a little bit more haste than I'd like to, but we're going to go there, kids. Iran's exiled prince Reza Pahlavi calls for civil disobedience and protests. He is the oldest son of the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Now Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi says he is fighting for the soul of his nation. During his father's time, Tehran was a reliable ally, and America was not the great Satan, as the U.S. has been so often called in Iran today. That ended when Pahlavi's family was overthrown by 1979 Islamic Revolution of the Grand Ayatollah Khomeini. Now Pahlavi wants the Iranian people to rise up against the regime and establish a parliamentary democracy based on democratic values, freedom, and human rights. What I'm calling upon is a process of civil disobedience, which is a method of change. How? By bringing democratic pressure on the system. If enough people refuse to cooperate, like Indians in India during British time, when they can paralyze the system by massive sustained labor strikes across the nation, that is not shooting bullets in the streets. He added that a method of change can be by nonviolent civil disobedience, provided it is nurtured and cared for. He noted that such mass movements have upended power structures from the collapse of the Soviet Union after the fall of the Berlin Wall to the end of apartheid in South Africa. Pahlavi said there is no reason that a wave of popular support cannot topple the theocratic regime in Tehran in a similar manner. Alright, folks. I want to thank all my Twitter followers and friends. And remind you guys to tune in tomorrow night at 9 o'clock for more military and international news that the mainstream media overlooks. And in the meantime, if you want to catch up with me, you can find me on Twitter at Jesse's POV, or you can shoot me an email at the station at jessespov@klrnradio.com. And on that note, folks, oh yeah, you regular listeners know what's coming. Yeah, you do. You regular listeners know what's coming. I'm out of here!